Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 152nd episode of our first YouTube run through the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours, playing as the Archaeologist. So we did get the Salon done. I wasn't 100% sure where we were with that. We are about to cross over into the next morning, it looks like, and I believe we've already packed away a confounding parable. Yes. So I think one of the first things I should work out pretty early on, and I realize this isn't the most exciting way to start the week, but let's actually start thinking about where we might want to put some of these lessons. And remembering some of my original plans here were to prioritize high-level skills that I maybe want to take up to level 9. So if I recall correctly, actually, I think Glacian Lightsmithing was a candidate for that. So we've got the Sky with Strings and Songs. Unfortunately, we don't have the Lantern. Okay, but that still gives me a little something. So what I'm also doing here is I'm writing myself my to-do list. So Glacier +1. I'll move that off to the side just so that I know. And we're going to do that for a few of the candidates here. So I actually think I'd settled for myself. I had some dispute earlier, I think, about whether or not I wanted to take preliminary meter higher. And so far as I can remember, I wasn't ready to go any further with that. For now, at least. Now, I believe, so Disciplines of the Hammer I think is already committed, but I remember that Disciplines of the Scar was something I wanted to move up higher. Now, normally this is something that would be good sort of Numa fodder. I'm debating about whether or not I want to follow through on that or not. Oh, also, I am bringing up Sand Stories, but that's just matching to Sand Stories, so that's not a worry there. So one potential candidate here would be to level up Disciplines of the Scar. Now, I don't have many options here. That would just be the Ragged Crossroads. And the other thing is, because this is low level, I may want to consider other alternatives. Again, the real idea here is to try and push some of the lessons that aren't as good for Numa as high as they can be. So I'm going to say I'm putting a pause on preliminary meter. If nothing else, it's just something that I have as an option for later. And then Disciplines of the Scar I'm going to keep as an option available to me, but I want to see if I can maybe find something a little bit more valuable. Another one that I think is in a similar state to that, by the way, is Surgeries and Exsanguinations, although of course it's currently in a weird spot. Let's maybe flip those around. All right, now I'm trying to remember if there were any others. So Auroral Contemplations, if I recall correctly, that was Nyctodromy bound, and then I don't remember if I had a 9 for that or not, but I seem to recall if there was a 9, it was actually one that was fairly low ranked. Probably the best thing for me to do here is just take a look at the... You know, none of these are leaping out to me right now. That's going to be one I have to have a think about then. Okay. The funny thing is that the reason why I'm focusing on some names here, and that may not be clear from the video just because I'm consulting my tablet. I think I have all of my skills written down, at least the ones that have been committed written down, but what will often happen here is, so for Illumination, I've got 4 skills written down for the levels 3 to 6. So things like Watchman's Paradox, Zapplebright Euphonies, Meniscate Reflections, and Purifications and Exaltations. I don't remember exactly how I made these determinations, but I remembered I was going to put those 4 in those slots. And so sometimes when you sort of hear me speaking generally about some of these skills, it's because I'm writing down these notes. But it does make it a little awkward here where I'm reading some text and I don't have anything to sort of show on the screen. But the funny thing is that the more I take a look for the ones, there are some that are sort of question marks. And I have a feeling that those were ones that were, for one reason or another, candidates for a higher level. And what's a little funny there is a lot of these are quite low, so they're sort of like Disciplines of the Scar and similar skills. So what it potentially means is that original plan of trying to push the higher level things, elevate them to, a level 8 or a level 9, the low-hanging fruit's sort of gone on that, and then what I should be doing is sort of hitting the books for some of these other candidates. I don't want to completely eliminate the possibility yet, but it's overall the number of choices that I have is starting to shrink. Now there's one that should be on the list here that I don't see. I'm wondering where putrefactions and calcinations is, because that's the one that I don't remember the... I don't remember the skills for. Clearly that's not the one that's being leveled up right now. Funny. I don't know if I want to completely hold the broadcast on it. That would also be a little unusual if I hadn't put it into the list of skills yet. Maybe. I mean, maybe that's why I wrote it down. So if I go through my library... These I've already got. Doesn't seem like I have any obvious candidates among the books I haven't already read yet. And again, it's not one that I may be convinced is... It's maybe not one that's worth holding the broadcast up for, but that's actually something I should keep an eye on. That's so weird that I've gone this far through without getting all of the skills, but I can live with that. All right. Drums and dances was a big one that I wanted to get to the higher levels. Really, at this point, it's coming down to the rose and the knock, which is good and bad in some ways. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Let's put preliminary meter towards Sky Stories. And then Ragged Crossroads is going to go to Disciplines of the Scar. So that'll give me a little bit of a break in terms of the time it takes me to do certain things. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. And there's the sand stories. All right, let's rearrange this a little bit. So we know that Disciplines of the Scar is going to move up. I don't want to rearrange the cards too far. So I guess the first thing that I want to do here is work out Glazerian lightsmithing. Now the other thing that I'll do for the day is bring in Denzel. I'm always welcome at Denzel's smithy. Denzel will offer help for free as a friend. If you give him a colt coinage, he will perform the service of division. Denzel rarely works for free, but he won't take payment for helping a friend. Did we feed the... We did. Okay. So animals are good. If I want to do any more gardening, this is the season to do it in. Now for Glazerian lightsmithing, because that is lantern and sky, the confounding parable will help us out there. And of course the music will as well. But one of the advantages I have with music is that it doesn't just have to be that. So we've got one currently. Let's try for, you know, if I add bells and braziers, I can get the wistful air. So that's 2. I wonder if... So drums and dances is always a tricky one because I need to find a heart. So if I use the core here, I mean, I can get the cheerful ditty, but is it really... Is it worth giving up the core, which is somewhat valuable to me right now? So maybe if I tried the Arab with Applebright Euphonies. So that's number 3. But if I use health, which is still useful for me, but maybe slightly less than core. Do Savage Hymn, so that's 4. We're still short a cheerful ditty, but I think for that one what we can do is we will use the phonograph. So that should be 5, and then we shouldn't need any of the music. So that's 6, so now I just need one more lantern or sky. Ideally that won't be overwritten by... You know what, I don't think I have one of those, so maybe what I will do is I will get the... I'll just get a revelation. I think we're on to... We did Alloy the White Rose, so... And we did Prophecies of Glory, so a Light in the Inkwell. Okay, so that should cover us for Glazier and Lightsmithing, but that's not the only material that I wanted to work on. Now, Sky Stories is a little more difficult to handle just because it has that overlap with Sky. So I'm thinking maybe what we do is we shoot for Disciplines of the Scar first. That one's trivial almost. And then the rest can go to... In fact, one thing that I'll do there is we'll take the metal and we'll get Torg's Cleansing, which is clearly not Edict's Martial. Oh, interesting. So that's 1. Figure contradiction will help us here. I think we're on to Book of Thrones. 2. And if I had a good lantern, I suppose I would have already picked it, so... Maybe Fear? Okay, and then last but not least are Sky Stories. So this will be just sort of a rush for any rose that I can get. And I think at this point I'm just going to go for any old book that I can get that'll get me rose. So Matter and Deeds of Serpents. And the thing that will make this one different is that because I have 2 rounds of this that I want to get, I'm not going to be too... So even if Denzel winds up overwriting it, this is still something I'm willing to put the... Excuse me. This is still something I'm willing to put the time into just because we're going to need sort of a big stream of these. So any Rose and Sky is fair game at this point. Rose and Sky that we haven't generated, of course, so Confounding Parables is going to be left alone. At least until we run out of desks. I think I'll use a health. And then we'll get some gossip. But I guess we have to do the Queens of the Rivers because we don't have that to work with. All right. I think I can work with this. Ideally, I would be doing something with the talk and... Well, I know I'll be doing something with the talk verb. Ideally, I'd be doing something with the consider verb. But I think at this point, we just let it run. And it's a foggy day, so that... I don't actually think helps us. And here we have the Carisham Portolan. Oriflammes, established 1776, Sense Signs Sciences. Dear librarian, we would like to offer you this opportunity to purchase. To tally price. All right, let's get talking. Speak to Denzel, he might even reply. So I'm going to have a little bit of a think about whether or not I make use of the fog. It'd be nice to. It's maybe not quite the same as it used to be because I have a couple of Newman that I can use to get some more powerful memories from, but I don't want to rule it out as a useful interaction for sure. So it should be able to get one more memory from Denzel before we start committing some lessons. Stolen Secret. I don't think I need any moon. All right, we've got our lessons. The Black Book of Brittany, a volume of ink lore gifted to St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman conquest. The black flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree run deep, and they may not be hidden forever. The black flower, spoken of as a doom or guise, can be held at bay with the last ink of power brewed from the pale mixture in the presence of sufficient winter with the arts of containment. Eventually, the sun in rags always brings its beautiful ending. On we go. A light in the inkwell. Musgrave, fourth of the De Wolf line, writes tentatively about the Covenant of Brankrug and the legacy of the sacred inks he calls Incasta Revolutonia. Words are of the first importance, so the Book of Suns teaches, but do not words require ink, and is the inkwell not then the womb of words? Musgrave identifies the Ichor Auroral as the mother of the Incastum Porphyrium. He adds that it would be blasphemous to describe the origins of the Ichor itself, although a scrawled marginal note suggests a later reader thought Musgrave was only hiding his ignorance beneath a cloak of piety. Revelation. Some truths come to us from outside or above. The Book of Thrones, a legend of the Shadowless Empire, transcribed by Alexander Peterhans from Annals at a Secret Shrine in Anatolia. In the first and greatest history, a subject of the Shadowless Empire of Persia travels to the west, to the kingdom of the Persids. There he becomes a protege of the tutelary Persid deity, the scarred man who lives in the dark. He returns after 7 years to put his skills at the service of the Shadowless Empire, becoming their golden general. After many years of peace, the heirs of the Persids move against the King of Kings in the Shadowless Empire. The Golden General will not take up arms against the blood of his mentor until the King of Kings whispers a great secret of betrayal in his ear. He breaks his sword, forswears his oath to both the Empire and the scarred man, and enters the temple behind the world, leaving his life behind. The cleansing itself has left my skin burning, my teeth throbbing. The chorovality rumbles beneath the membranous surfaces of the waking world. The librarian Natalia Brulot learnt this powerful, if unpleasant, technique from the priest and edgelong Reverend Torg. Opening the Sky, an unusual recording of Varro's Opening the Sky, composed for the coronation of the new king, Henry IX. The record bears the suppression stamp Expunge. The first movement is soft, autumnal. The second, unsettling, febrile. The third is bright, soaring, rapturous. The fourth movement is glassy, slithering, a tintinnabulous icicle rattle. The fifth returns to the theme of the third, bright and rapturous once again, but this is a choral movement. It becomes apparent, though, that these are much, much too pure and high to be human voices. They recall birdsong, they recall the sweep of the windswept sky, blue turning black at the edge of the higher heaven, and they wrench the heart in a direction the Bureau does not permit. On the Matter and Deeds of Serpents, this was probably the Prophecies of the Naga rendered into English and illustrated by William Midnight in Paris in the 1880s, but it shows a number of divergences from that text. It's certainly quite recent by the standards of that texts. The serpent folk called the Great Hooded Princes came to know the order called the House of Leith and warred across the miles with them. They made an alliance with the mother of ants whose children they had been. The text describes how the Great Hooded Princes escaped, or will escape, from the Fifth History, where they had died or were doomed to die. They engaged in a secret conquest of the land of the Great River, called India in some histories, and have ensured that all other conquests of that land are false conquests. All right, sorry, this one I was looking for rows for, so that should go up there. De motu corporum veditorum. The author rejoices in the name of Abelard Hubris, and the title might be translated as On the Forbidden Motions of Bodies, evidently a reference to Newton's De Motu Corporum, published some 20 years previously. Hubris's thesis that stars, planets, and other bodies are the proxies or even essences of the hours, and that conjunctions and occlusions reveal the outcome of our intrigues in the Mansus. Hubris declares that the great comet of 1577 was the physical embodiment of the hour named Madrigad, that it disintegrated, but its fragments gravitate to bone marrow, where they can be located even now. He insists that aronoscopic techniques can be used with essential periost and sufficient sky to create a talisman centrifugic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I should probably repurpose some of the music at this point. A True History of Valentine de Wolff, written in the third person by Valentine de Wolff, rarely coherent, although it includes some useful footnotes on falconry and on exotic veterinary medicine. Valentine is obsessed with the meaning of the de Wolff coat of arms. On a field or a chevron and arched gulls between two corby heads, raised sable in chief and wolf sajant sable in base. Long have the two birds pursued my blood, yet one is no crow, yet it is darker. Long has the wolf rolled itself in gold like a clovered cow, until its slobberings stain our thoughts. Let it rise in head and heart. Harsh on the tongue. I'll be humming this for a while, and so will anyone else who happens by. The Mirror of Melissenth, the daybook and dream journal of Abbess Melissenth, venerated as a saint and respected as an alchemist. Melissenth speaks longingly of those who we would call from behind the sky. Melissenth claims that the sights and sensations arts that she describes can be used to invoke the dream of a star when sufficient sky aspect is invoked to uplift an ascendant harmony. All right, that will go to preliminary meter. I'm going to have to reorganize these a little bit. And The Queens of the Rivers, a surreal contemporary play by the enigmatic Monica Medina, in which the queens of the rivers are murdered one by one. The Queen of the Vistula is poisoned. The Queen of the Dnieper chokes on a fishhook. The Queen of the Tagus is burnt alive. The culprit, it transpires, is the audience. The surviving queens are directed to execute whatever audience members do not escape. A surprisingly lucid epilogue suggests that the correspondence of river names with historical events does provide clues to secret histories behind our own. All right. So these should be the raw materials of today's work. Now, the first thing that I want to do, above all, is to get Galasian lightsmithing up. But there's an order that works a bit better than the others. So, 1, 2, 3, all of these are basically rare now. 5. Six, 7. I'm prioritizing the wistful air here because I think it should be I basically need to give up less in order to get it. Okay. I'm happy enough with my choices here. So don't really have many options for Glacian lightsmithing. It's not 0, so obviously I don't need to match both, but lantern and sky are not the easiest to come by. In fact, I think there's only one sky. It's 2 lantern, but we'll use the Faust in this case. At last, I approach mastery, improve the skill to level 8. And we're basically ready to go with Disciplines of the Scar as well. Really only, the fear is the only one that's sort of hanging right now. But I'm probably going to put a small priority towards sky stories. If I can get something with a rose or a sky, that would be best. Not necessarily guaranteed it, though. So we'll do one thing to tilt this in my favor, and that will be to get another wistful air. In fact, while I'm at it, I've clearly given up on using my health for anything else. So that restores the music. A little reluctant to use an Arab at this point, so let's take a... So the one thing I definitely want to do is get another confounding parable. Oops. I don't recall if we did... I think we did the Serenity of the Black Wood again, so that should mean we're back to Locksmith's Dream. I think I'm actually going to leave it at that. I have a little more time. I have a little more time today, and I want to see what my conversations with Denzel get me. I also should have earned some money. He does a lot with silence, this man. So I'm not expecting too much out of the conversations with Denzel, but I'm not completely giving up on getting something useful either. Oh yes, I also forgot. I should probably catalog these 2 books. I might as well do it now. It's not, it doesn't really change how I would have handled today because we want to deal with the lessons anyway, but being able to queue up what I might use the remaining text for, particularly if they give me skills that I don't already have. It's nice to have that on the list. Okay, so we've got our Glacian lightsmithing. They don't have the memories to move up Sky Stories yet, so we will take Disciplines of the Scar. And I guess the question is, do I want to put a medal towards it? Do I want to put a Faust, a Whist, an Arab? Sky Stories does not benefit from Arab, so we will surrender that for the greater good. And then I only have 30 seconds left for the remainder of these, so let's see we'll see what Denzel gives me, but I think probably I should just queue up. I have a feeling I'm just going to queue up a batch of books for the next round on Sky Stories. Another fear. He does a lot with silence, this man. I'm not exactly expecting miracles here, but at least I've got a little bit of... if you think about kind of how the day has gone, we're halfway through the day. We are... Basically, at this point, we just have one more lesson to go, I think would be a fair estimation. Okay, The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Galmier's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Galmier records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What is below can't escape what is above. The finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I'm no artisan, only a scholar. I think there's a secret that all these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. So that technically secures me the sky stories that I need. The Book of the White Cat, stories brought by a blind white cat to Penelope of Gordian. That gets us Watchman's Paradoxes. I'm trying to remember if that was one that we had committed already. It's not the easiest one for me to read. We have not. Okay. It's another Wistful Air, so we're kind of overdoing it now in terms of sky stuff, but I'm happy to be in that state. The account of Kanishk at the Spider's Door. Lakahuli, Kanishk's victim and lover, wrote this account, perhaps posthumously. So this is definitely one that we will use for additional levels. In fact, that's the sort of thing that I could use to level up the... something I could use to level up Disciplines of the Scar if I was so inclined. I'm not quite ready to go down that road yet, but I think one of the things I'm going to do for things like Disciplines of the Scar is I'm going to fairly aggressively pursue the high-level books just to kind of clear those out. It's one of the reasons I was trying to nibble at the edges of things like Glacier and Lightsmithing, just so I don't have to worry too much about the surplus. But I think we're at the point now where I should be thinking a little bit more boldly. Okay, Sky Stories. Let's get you to level 6. So first priority here would be Gossip, but the rest of these are pretty unique. So Founding Parable. Let's do Cheerful Ditty, Beguiling Melody, and Savage Hymn. I only got one secret threshold book, so I'm trying to minimize the number of times I read that repeatedly. And Fete. I need to make sure I have a Fete or a Faust left over by the end of the day. Okay, so knowing what we know right now, we've got for the Sky Stories, it's currently level 5. It will be level 6, so we basically just need 4 more Sky or Rose. Now, we don't need to be too picky about this because we are basically at the end of the day. Excuse me. But I will try to... I'll try to tread a little lightly in terms of what I go for. So we'll do Peruvian Diaries for the Cheerful Ditties. That's 3 of 6. We could afford another knock. Nations of Skin is 4. And I guess we can go for another... No, we can't. Sorry, I was going to say another Bittersweet Certainty, but that doesn't get me the Sky that I need. Nuts. I thought I had at least one more sure thing. But it's been a little while since I've done an Intuitions, so... History to Eternity. Okay. Now, it's maybe not the smartest thing for me to do right now, but I do kind of have a feeling that I should be putting a bit more into... Like, I kind of feel like right now it wouldn't be bad for me to put something into leveling up I don't know. Let's take Disciplines of the Scar as an example. I don't know if I want to commit to that fully, but let's just see. What I want to do here is I want to look for the highest level that will get me either Lantern or Edge. The fact that these are 12 is not boding well. I mean, as the sun is coarse if I have to, but I think we can do better than that. Pyroglyphics would work. Do I have the Lantern for it is the question. So we can do that at the governor's desk. So if I use a Faust there. So from that, I think Auroral Contemplations is my best. Now, I can give myself a little bit of a push with the mirror scope, but I'm still too short. I think I'm going to take a chance on this one. So, Lantern Visions, perhaps you provided Lantern, but not enough to match Mystery Lantern. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. While we do that, I'm going to make sure I'm willing to put the health towards that, I think. Not sure I want to do anything with the gull colony here. So the nice thing here is that because I want to be leveling up Disciplines of the Scar, it doesn't require as much to get ahead. I should probably only need 2 or 3 memories when all is said and done. So we'll see where we are with the reading before I commit anything. And it is again, it's a little late in the day for me to be spending too much time on this, but I think I'm willing to give it a shot. All right, it's autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. And I lost track of the episode, so I think we're going to leave it here. We've more or less digested everything for the Salon. So at this point, we'll be moving on to my main goals in terms of skills. And I guess the problem for me right now is I haven't really defined those goals very well for myself. So I don't know if I'm going to spend a whole lot of time thinking about that between episodes, because I do want to make sure that they get recorded on time. But that will probably be the main focus for the rest of autumn. I don't think there's too much that I need to focus on for the season. If there's something I can do with the Orchard Keeper, I should take the opportunity. But actually, you know what? The one thing that might have been good would be to try and take advantage of the Perilous Path with the extra fog, but a little late to do that now. Anyway, all of this will be resolved in... Actually, you know what? What am I saying? Wormwood Dream would be better for the moon, so never mind. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you Wednesday for the next one. Take care.